Um, so I would work on the macros first, and then I would work on the macros first, and I work on the micros second. Like, the calendar and everything is great as far as his ADLs and stuff goes. But then I would take that one day per calendar and I would break that down. It's like micro segments. Like, okay, is he turning off the stove? Is that the safety features in place? And I would give him a list to do. And as he gotten better throughout the days of the month, he would be more accurate of checking off that list independently. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's kind of a take that I have on that. Because safety is always first, I guess. And then you can get to the other stuff as long as you're doing it safely, I guess is my take on it.
I just real quick, I apologize that I guess some people say that was 7 minutes. I didn't think it was 7 minutes, but that went really fast. And I know some of you guys might not have gotten anywhere, and I'm really, really sorry for that. I guess I should have given us more time. But now we can just have the discussion as a group, I suppose. So if any of you groups, like Carrie, you just shared, if any of the other groups got further than my group did, we got one step rope, then please share what your outcome was and maybe some of the action steps that you guys came up with.
Yes, for us, he's trying to move into his own apartment. So the main goal was to discuss with him to see when he really wants to move. What is the time frame? And then from that, we break it into smaller groups, like what do we have to do to get him there? So that's what our discussion is.
So things like, does he have a job to pay for his own apartment? If he doesn't, then we should probably work on that. Does he know how to budget his money? Does he know what it means to pay bills? Is he paying the bills? Is, anything that we know are parts of that. So he has to save money. He has to have a certain amount of money. Maybe he has to work on his credit. Maybe he wants a roommate. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he still has some skills that he needs to learn in order to be independent at home. And so it's not just about getting his own place. It's about being able to maintain it. So is he cooking? Is he able to cook? Is he able to clean? Is he able to do his own laundry? Is he able to do these things safely? How much support does he need? And so, like I said, there's a lot of things, like you said, break it down into smaller steps, and check, kind of check it off every time he completes one.
Kyle, did you have something to add? I saw you
I
unmute.
just was going to say, I don't cook or clean, and I have my own house.
Okay, but you have a wife that does that for you, right?
Well, I married Cinderella.
Okay, well, this person doesn't have somebody to do that for him. So realistically, if you were a bachelor, you would have to do that on your own, right? So if you don't learn, I guess you're going to have a dirty house and you're going to be hungry.
Or I could have a job.
Which means you'll never marry Cinderella.
I could pay a service to come in and clean. I could have food come in. So
if you have the money to do that, yes, that'd be great.
I think we have to have all those conversations.
But you would also have to plan that, right? You want to plan what you're going to have, where you're going to order it from. How are you going to choose a cleaning service? What kind of people do you want coming in and cleaning your house?
And I wanted to thank Alfreda for speaking for me and David Baum. And I can't remember the last person because you only threw her in there for about 30 seconds for Lawrence. So thanks, Alfreda, for talking for me.
Technical difficulties or something. But some of the people that were assigned to your room left. That's why, I looked and I was like, oh my gosh. And yeah. Anybody else want to talk about theirs?
Well, we're just getting started with ours, which is Tom wanting to get a job. And of course, we're caught up. And then,
I know.
But the little things that we have to do is, identify what kind of job. If we know what kind of job, then we can then start training the staff to help Tom with what kind of job he's looking for. Like, how does he know how to do interviews? Does he know how to fill an application? And things like that. We're just getting to talk about it when we're cut off.
So just with those couple of steps that you mentioned, so how would you document that he was making progress on his outcome using those kinds of steps? I mean, you just have to be creative and just imagine that he's doing these things or he's not doing the things that you talked about, but how would you document that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, having a chat, that you break down those little steps and have staff follow with the individual once with the individual, right? Having a chat that you follow. Today, we're gonna work on, filling out an application. Today, we're gonna talk about going to a committee, maybe going to a job fair and things like that. Is what we'll have the staff do.
Anybody else that
Lois.
was, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, we were in the same group. Lois made a really good comment about the action plan too, of a piece that's pretty key that's missing was the "so that" statement. I mean, it'll come out in conversation as TK was talking about, like why a job, where, and what are your passions, and letting that lead. But it was a big thing that she said, you work hard to find that statement. And so it's not even on there.
Right. Well, and keep in mind too, that this is just like a cheat sheet. You're going to know you're going to know what that means. And yes, you're right. That could be added as part of the outcome. That is a good idea, because I know what you're saying about that. But like I said, keep in mind that you're going to be working with this person. So you're going to know this person. You're going to have been trained on their plan. You're going to know all of the things that are in each of those sections that are going to help you support that person. This is just more of like a cheat sheet for you to put together a plan of action kind of thing. So I know it's kind of hard going in blind with just this one sheet of paper and not having extra information, but in real life, you're going to know a lot more information than you've been given today as far as that person. So, but yeah, I do agree that could be added there to help out.
Well, because there was a little bit more confusion, because like it was Tom has a job, all right, as the outcome. And, I think Darlene had asked the question, well, does he already have a job? And I kind of talked that through of typically an outcome is an end result of something. Right. So why then it was Tom has a job as the end result that we want to see.
Right. So how are we going to get him to getting that job? Yeah. Okay. Anybody else?
I was having some technical difficulties with my Microsoft Word, but Kelly and Sarah and Allison and I think Austin, we still had some good discussion though. We were talking about outcomes, and especially like we were talking about if those outcomes are really the ones that the person wants to work on, and how we figure that out, how we talk as a team to get that individual motivated for that outcome. If we're having such a hard time getting them motivated, is it really something they're interested in and want to work on? So although we didn't do the action steps, we still had some good conversation.
Well, that's good. Yes. And that's one of the other things that I mentioned earlier about, that's a good way to find out if they're not interested. Like you just said, if you have all these great action steps put in place, and every time you try to initiate it or help the person do it, they have no interest whatsoever. That's where you need to write that stuff down, and say, we attempted to assist Tom to do some look on Indeed and look at the available jobs in his area and things like that. He was just not interested, or we tried, X, Y, and Z, and this was his reaction. Well, then it's time to talk to the ISC about maybe switching that outcome up or revamping it somehow that perks his interest a little bit more, or you just keep trying new things, try another way, that kind of thing. But you're just documenting all of that stuff. All right. Anybody else? Our group, we did not get very far, but our group, his outcome was to maintain it, I can't remember the exact words, I need to pull it up, to maintain his house and be independent in his responsibilities. So basically being able to keep up with this house on his own, doing all the things that you would do living in your home, cooking, cleaning, doing laundry, things that you would to keep your household up and running. And so we started with, making schedules and monthly calendars and things like that. And then breaking those tasks down, like we talked about before. Cooking could be progressive, cleaning, laundry, all of those things, teaching all of those steps to that kind of thing. Anybody in our group want to add anything that you were going to add when we got cut off abruptly? Anybody? Okay, any other group want to talk? There was 5 of us, 5 outcomes.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I guess the outcomes would be, well, yeah, I guess what we would take for granted, we need to do step by step and see how the client's doing with all those. And unless the client exceeds what our expectation was, and that would be our outcome of that. You know what I'm saying? Let the client trips on the same thing every day, like he doesn't lock his front door, or he might forget his keys, and then eventually he'll remember to do all those things, and that's going to be an outcome, kind of like a goal. Would that be correct?
Well, are you referring to the outcome that I just talked about?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so those could be things like, one of the things you have to work on with him is that he always leaves without locking his door.
Yeah.
And so you could, that could be one of those action steps that you are reminding him every time you leave, consistently, that he needs to lock the door. And then one day he does it without you prompting him. That is absolutely progress on his outcome. That is absolutely a completion of an action step and something that you should document. Yes. That is a small step, but it's a step towards his outcome.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Got
being
it.
able to manage his house, have those adult responsibilities, things like that. I think what happens with all of the outcomes and how we're documenting is that we miss the little things, and people might look at the big picture and miss those small little things, just like you said. There are a lot of people that have never even opened up their own lunchbox and gotten their lunch out in their entire life. It's because somebody's always done it for them. And so if today Joe opened his sandwich bag and took it out of it on his own without waiting for staff, like, doesn't seem like a big thing to some people, but for him, that is progress, that's improvement. And so what's the next step that we can work on? And it's, sometimes it's baby steps, and sometimes you do have those broad things, just like that outcome, or the more concrete ones, like Tom has a job. So it's really just dependent on the person, dependent on the outcome. And Pam mentioned in the chat, if you guys saw it or not, but about writing the action plan with the person. And that's obviously the best case scenario. That should be something that is done with that person. You're sitting down with them and saying, okay, this is your outcome. Let's talk about how we're going to get there. Because if you notice on the action plan itself, it says who's the person responsible. And so, you could write the step, and it's Tom's responsibility to work on this step or complete this step. Or it's Tom and his provider's responsibility to work on that together, or it's only the provider's responsibility to remind that person or support that person. So absolutely, the team should sit down and help. If the person doesn't write them all himself, you have that as a team, you're doing it together.
I think the outcome should grow as the client grows. I think your outcome should progress as the client progresses as well.
Well, I think, different stages of your life are going to have different things that you want to accomplish, right?
Well, yeah,
So,
like him able to get his own lunch out of his lunchbox. Okay, well, he's completed that task. Now let's see if we can't have him make his own lunch and putting in his lunchbox. The next step. It's going to be the next outcome, progressing from what he just did. You know what I'm saying? Keep growing with the outcome. Does it make sense?
Yes. Or those are just steps in getting him to his ultimate outcome of being independent.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. But you're documenting all of those small victories. That's really kind of the bottom line of all of it, is you're documenting what's happening and how it's relevant to the outcome, and how he's making progress on the outcome.
Stepping stones, so to speak.
Yeah. And if those are steps in making progress, fantastic.
Okay.
But we have to be documenting them. And that's the most important part.
Okay. I'm done speaking.
No, I'm glad you have input. Does anybody else have anything they want to talk about before we wrap up?
Understand. I mean, understand completely.
And so if we completely confused everybody on the action steps and action plans, I do apologize for that. I know some of you are familiar with them and some of you aren't. And nobody said you had to use that form. You don't have to use that form. But you should have action plans put together, and it doesn't have to look like that. As long as you have some steps and you're working on them and you're writing down what it is that you're doing and how it's working and how they're making progress. Doesn't have to be on a learning log. It just has to be written down somewhere. It has to be documented. So all those wonderful things that you know are happening and they're in your head, put them on paper.
Okay.
Well,
Does this report get sent in every quarter, or is there a timeline or a month or day? They return these in, or is it something for our own records?
Well, both. So, Lois or any of the ISCs on can speak for exactly what that process looks as far as how you ask for progress notes, but the ISCs, SSA should be reaching out quarterly at least for notes about progress on the outcome, whether that's you sending them the documentation, maybe you guys just have a conversation, but out in the Lois, you want to touch base on that?
Absolutely. That is, we are doing monitoring quarterly, at least quarterly, for individuals. So ISCs will reach out to you, may ask for documentation from you to look at your documentation, may have conversations with you, may ask you to meet if there's, questions, or if you can't meet, again, conversation back and forth in regards to, again, looking at those things such as what's working, what's not working, are there changes that need to be made to the plan? Those type of things. Where are we at in accomplishing that plan? That's what we're looking at in that monitoring of the outcome progress.
Okay.
In addition to that, right, we have DODD that, tells us that, you as providers also have to be able to show that documentation of that there's progress with that, with the outcome.
Chelsea's sharing a document. I'm assuming you had
Right,
something to say
so
about
so
that.
the document, often ISCs are filling out kind of that first portion of this. So they're doing, review date, the outcome, what it is, what we were supposed to see. And then, again, the feedback of what I described there of, what's working, what's not working. Was there progress? Are there things that are in the way that we need to change? Are they identified as a blocker or a barrier? Is there a change in the ISP that is needed? Did you notice something in discovery, that might not, we've made success and it needs to be changed? So those are questions that, we're reaching out to you as providers who are working with people every day to get that information. That key thing we're asking too is, that next review date. When can we look again? When are we gonna, review this to see what progress has been made? Because again, the outcome of all of this, right, is that people have accomplished their outcomes.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we're running over, so I want to respect everybody's time, but unless anybody has any other questions, then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, Sarah did ask Jamie if providers should be getting these from all ISCs or at least talking to them about it.
Yes.
Yeah, and it depends on the ISC. I know I've heard some ISCs are emailing these out to providers. Some are doing phone calls, some are doing Zoom meetings, and the ISC completes it on their own.
Yeah, there should be at least conversations that are happening in terms of monitoring that progress and how things are, kind of going for the person in regards to that specific outcome. And again, that outcome is at least, or we're at least monitoring that on a quarterly basis, but it also could be more often depending on the needs of the person and kind of what that outcome is to, to work with that individual and everything else too.
I had a question. This is Emmanuel from Good Samaritan. I was part of Kristen Borden's group. She had mentioned the TENS network, saying that there was an example of the action steps. I'm looking on the website. I'm just like trying to figure out where that example is.
Right. So on the Excellence Network, I list all the past provider meetings. I'll list any information we go over, PowerPoints, any documents that I've been given, and I will add an example of the action plan and the learning log to that after today's meeting. It'll be in by the end of this week, but you'll be able to find it on the Excellence Network under the past provider meetings section, and just look for March 2022, and all that information from today will be listed.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All righty. Well, with that being said, a fantastic day today. Lots of information shared, lots of good information that we know all of you have been seeking. And I will also post the EVV PowerPoint that I was given today to the website. If you have any questions going forward, please don't hesitate to reach out to your ISC. You can always reach out to anyone in the provider department also, but I would definitely go through the ISC if it has to do with the individual and the outcome and their ISP. So for all of you, have a great rest of your week. If you are a 10 member, a member of the Excellence Network, please stay on, and we will be meeting with you in about 5 minutes. We'll take a little break, but for everyone else, it's good to see you, and we'll see you next month.
All right, thank you.